This episode of Dakota Destinations is presented by Vern Eide Motoplex.
Got it. Yep. That is a beauty. Look at that one. Wow.
Welcome to Dakota Destinations. I'm your host, Dan Hammer. We're in Theodore Roosevelt National Park, a popular destination for visitors from around the nation, and also a popular destination for a North Dakota-based wildlife photographer. And we'll spend time on the water with a pair of fishermen specializing in artificial baits.
In a day like this, especially any time when it's cool or morning or evening, it's always just beautiful.
The sunrise over Theodore Roosevelt National Park is a breathtaking sight.
I first came out here when I was in high school. I was 16 or 17 years old, and I remember seeing a herd of wild horses passing through a ridge. And it went from a wooded spot open and back into the trees again, and I still remember that.
Born in North Dakota, Pat Gerlach has always had an appreciation for the prairies and the Badlands.
It's like my soul needs this place to regenerate.
He's an acclaimed wildlife photographer. Most of his work comes from the prairie pothole regions of east central North Dakota, or here, the picturesque sights in and around Theodore Roosevelt National Park.
What gives me the rush? First off, it's just being here. To be driving out in the dark of night, the early morning, going to a place has always been terribly exciting to me. Be sitting there driving along with that cup of coffee and thinking what this day might bring. It doesn't matter whether it's birds or, back on the prairie or animals out here. It's always exciting to me.
A group of bull elk meandering across the top of a ridge greets Gerlach before dawn on this morning.
So the Badlands, they're just a magnet to me. I mean, if you're looking for wildlife, you come out here, and here it all is.
For a bit, the elk seem as curious about us as we are about them. It's a close encounter with one of the park's most majestic animals. The kind of encounter that strikes a special chord with Gerlach.
The anticipation, what's going to happen, and then there's that initial rush of finding something, because you never know. The day might be a total bust because of weather or just the birds. Weather might be perfect, the birds and the animals don't show up. You never know. There's a tremendous uncertainty about it.
This trip to the Badlands produces one of those moments Gerlach cherishes. A herd of wild horses casually making their way up a bluff, the adults and foals in single file. For the trained eye of Gerlach, a scene that had so many of the right elements to produce what he calls a story in a single frame.
What I was trying to do here was the right balance between rock and horse. I didn't want close-ups of just the horse, because we've had that here and other places. But here it is the formation and the way they were going up and so forth. That was the attraction to this spot. So then how I did afterwards, we'll see.
Here's what Pat saw through his eyes and his lens.
And then when it's over, you go, whoa, wasn't that something? But I don't think about it at all while it's happening. This is a rough world out here. I've seen some things in nature that you wouldn't want to see. It's a tough world. The animals live and they die in a tough environment, and they get killed and all of that. And I have pictures of those things, but I've never printed any of them because it's been beauty that I've been pursuing. I mean, who wants to put it on their wall anyway? But even just as a point of interest, I generally try and do things that are beautiful.
Gerlach left the newspaper business years ago. He had his first art show in 1978, and he's never looked back. The purpose behind his pictures, he says, is not self-expression, but rather a story told in one frame as seen through his eyes.
I have a very simple picture of a young short-eared owl, also taken within a mile and a half of my house. And he's looking at me, and his expression is just marvelous. It's my favorite expression of all the birds I've ever photographed. And I've never been able to come up with one word that covers it all. I can do words that cover part of it, but nobody's ever made me one word that describes the look in this guy's face. Maybe the best photograph I've taken is a picture of a sharp-tailed grouse eating a rose hip in the wintertime. And he's on a snowbank, and the rose bush is isolated by itself, and he's reaching up and he's plucking one. And it's somewhat of a predictable thing, is that when they pull it off, they'll suspend it for a second. And most berry-eating birds will do that, a robin or a cardinal. And so it's a little bit predictable, but they're all lined up just right. And you can see his feet, you know, with the feathered legs. It's winter, and it's North Dakota. To me, it's the essence of the prairie. Everything I do is a print. I don't have any other purpose in my photography life except to print. So everything I see is in terms of the print. How is this going to fit on a print? And always the object is the bigger the better. To me, the highest, best possible use of a photograph was to hang on the wall. More than in a newspaper or a magazine or any of that. To me, to put it on the wall was the ultimate kind of compliment of a photograph. In a way, it is the ultimate entrepreneurial endeavor. I make something, I roll into a strange town on Thursday night or Friday morning, I set up my display, and I sell things I produce to people I've never met before. And if it works well, on Sunday night I roll out of town with enough to, you know, make it a little bit further. So I like all of those parts of it. I've been in pursuit of beauty since I started doing this. And that's one of the great gifts that I have that goes with what I'm doing.
Coming up next on Dakota Destinations, photographers from New York, Louisville, and Sioux City join Pat for a rendezvous here in Theodore Roosevelt National Park.
Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by Vern Eide Motoplex. Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by Vern Eide Motoplex.
Welcome back to Dakota Destinations and a day in Theodore Roosevelt National Park with North Dakota wildlife photographer Pat Gerlach. Each summer, Gerlach hosts a couple of working workshops here within the park.
First 3 years I was here, I don't think I ever saw another photographer with a big telephoto lens. It was a pretty solitary pursuit, and I love that part of it.
Pat Gerlach has been following wildlife here in Theodore Roosevelt National Park. He tells stories of wildlife through the lens of his camera. One frame for one story.
You want a good start and ending point. Like here, it would be kind of a natural to start at that and end at that one.
Yeah, that's what I kind of.
But you'd want to put that butte in there.
Yeah,
the one out there
yeah.
will be a pretty interesting point.
Each summer, Gerlach hosts small wildlife photography workshops. Deb from New York, Jim from Iowa, and Karen from Kentucky all met Pat through art shows. His work and a chance to learn more about wildlife photography brought them to western North Dakota.
It'll actually photograph better than it looks to your eye. Because you'll compress it up with that 300, and it's a pretty good landscape.
Yeah, I've taken a couple of those. I thought it was real nice too.
The way it all sweeps up. And as you've seen, it's hard to get one where you can get distance and the group at the same time. Because usually if you have the distance, they're spread out so much. But that's pretty good right there.
Yeah, I like that.
So I've been riding horses all my life since I was about 6. I have 2 now.
Deb Kalis is a professional family portrait photographer. She bides her time between the Hamptons of New York, Palm Beach, Florida, and Santa Barbara, California. Her hobby is horses.
I ride 6 days a week and love horses. I have been dying to do this kind of trip for probably 12 years. And my son said to me, "Mom, you're not getting any younger." So he said, "Go for it." And I said, "All right."
It was the wild horses of Roosevelt National Park that brought her to this workshop.
Breathtaking. Breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. Yeah, dream come true. Definitely dream come true. Thought about this for many, many years, and this particular herd just had so many beautiful horses in it. You know, that each horse had its own personality and uniqueness, and whether it was young or old, you know, it was a pleasure, and the light was amazing, because that has a lot to do with it.
Love of photography is one bond Deb, Karen, and Jim share. Another is simply being in this place.
I've always been a lover of nature, enjoyed being out in it, a lot of peace when I'm out in nature, and capturing it first on film and now digitally has always been rewarding. I'm not very good at it, but I do enjoy it, and I've learned a lot this trip, so I think I will be better in the future.
Oh, this park is wonderful. I think of all the parks I've been to, this is the one park you can get the closest to be able to photograph all the animals in the park.
They can't believe the primitive feeling that they get here, and the lack of people.
For 4.5 days, Gerlach and his wildlife photography understudies will immerse themselves in the park. Up well before dawn, cameras ready. And on the very first morning, a close encounter with the most majestic animal in the park. A group of elk make their way across a ridge, pausing long enough for a story in pictures.
I always find my greatest sense of peace and stress reliever when I'm out in nature. And so it's wonderful to be able to capture it on film and bring it to my house.
They're just blown away by it. They just can't believe it, that there is a place like this. And it's generally, they're a well-traveled group. They've been all over the world, most of them, and they'll come here, and I'll hear back later, sometimes years later even, and they'll talk about this. Here's one of the best trips I ever had coming out here.
After years of telling stories one frame at a time, this student of photography found himself being a teacher of photography. And each summer, he's back here in the front yard of the wildlife that call this park home, sharing what he loves.
People would be asking me questions, and I had answers for them. And it kind of surprised me how much I knew about photography. And so it was, I think, a teacher who was at one of the workshops, and I was having this discussion with her, and she said, I think the phrase was, "How do I know what I know until I hear myself say it?" And it was kind of that people asked me questions that made me dig deep into what I knew for the answers.
Now, do you try to get the trees here too?
No,
or just you try to get
if you're short enough and can keep them in focus, that's okay. But if they're looking too fuzzy, then I would just try and go over the top of them. On a day like this, especially any time when it's cool, or morning or evening, it's always just beautiful.
When we come back to Dakota Destinations, we'll follow up with a pair of fishermen we featured last year who hit the tournament trail with artificial baits only.
Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by Vern Eide Motoplex.
Welcome back to Dakota Destinations. Last year, we introduced you to 2 Fargo fishermen who became the first pro walleye fishermen to hit the tour with artificial baits only. How did their inaugural season go? Let's check it out.
He only lets me reel in the pipe. That's right. Is its head shaking? No.
You want to go back like that?
Fish or a snag.
Look at that.
Put away anything.
So you might have outdone me on this one, maybe, Corey.
Troy, this is a bigger one, I think. Oh yeah, it got heavy. So you'd think two guys that traveled around all year fishing, we would do something different on our fun time. But not us, we go fishing. This is what happens to me.
Well,
this is a nice walleye. Thanks for giving me the rod. Hey, thanks for giving me the rod. You can't have it back. Look at that one.
Corey Heiser and Troy Morris, pro fishermen, friends, and some days, it seems, the modern day grumpy old men.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Well, Troy, this
think
is why we come up here for fun, right?
Yeah. Can I reel that one in? Please?
Yeah, see how he's begging?
Can I?
This is what I deal with all the time. Okay, sunshine. No, are you sure you're tough enough? This is a giant.
I've been tough all year.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
There you go. You can reel it.
Thanks, Corey.
This
You're
is
the
nice to you.
greatest. You're the
See that?
greatest.
See how that works? Like I was saying, you know, we spend all year fishing together, tournaments. It is a lot of fun to come up here and just have a great time, no pressure. We got no goal other than to give a good ribbing and see how many big fish we can catch.
So you're the bestest friend.
I am.
You are the bestest friend because you're going to hate me when we get this in.
It's a relaxing day on Devil's Lake. The pro season is over. Today is all about fun.
So here we come up to Devil's Lake in the fall of the year. Tournaments are finally done, and I can't believe I handed him this rod though, but the fish that he's got on here is what we come up here and fish for. You catch so many big 8 and 9, 10 pounders that it's just a lot of fun, you know. We come up here and laugh and tell stories.
She's coming in nice and heavy, just like she should, staying down. This is going to be close to that 8-pound mark.
Yeah. Well, we've been fishing all year, whether we're out having fun like this or tournament fishing without any live bait. So this fish that Troy's got on right now, he ain't got no live bait on there.
Here he comes. Yeah!
Look at that, buddy.
Thanks, Corey. You're the best friend.
Oh, there you go, fellas. Woo, that's why we come up here to have fun. See, and I let him have that one. There you go.
Nice 7-pounder.
Yeah. We'll have to dig out my scale.
Pretty.
Don't you throw that
Devil's
one
Lake Gold.
Last spring, when Heiser and Morris announced they would fish the professional walleye circuit with artificial baits only, some raised their eyebrows. Their goal? Educate and teach anglers that artificial baits can be used anywhere, anytime, even competitively, even on those so-called live bait waters.
Troy and I actually sat one day and kind of analyzed our season, and just to put it into perspective of how we felt like we fared without the live bait versus maybe the decisions we'd have made differently with live bait. And the consensus after about a 45-minute conversation is we feel like we had a better season because we did not have the option of live bait.
Absolutely.
And we fished in a pack of boats at Green Bay that were all using night crawlers, and we beat every one of them because we did not have that option. So it eliminated it from our thinking. And you know, we had a great tournament there. You know what? Wow thing. Started out the fall, we're going to put on a little wow thing.
I think I love you.
Make my heart sing.
There we go, a double.
Double.
That's kind of how the season started out, like I was saying.
Just been a phenomenal time, you know. We've been friends for so long and haven't ever fished a tournament together, and with the artificial only concept and artificial eyes, it's sure been a lot of fun, and we've had such good success this year. In fact, you know, just made the championship, and I don't know how big this one is, but oh, Troy, would you mind getting the net?
Do you think we're gonna need the net on that one?
Look.
Oh, that's Jaws. It's Jaws.
A good netter won't lose it. Come on, a good netter won't lose it. Yeah! Hey, what happened to your little guy?
I'm gonna put that bait on.
Look at how that fish is hanging though.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Just barely.
Barely.
See, and I don't know if you guys noticed it right away, but Troy was scared to reel that one in because he could feel the crankbait.
Crankbait was wiggling. I seen it.
See, I told you I had skills to pay the bills. Look at that. An absolute awesome Devil's Lake walleye. And one of our biggest goals, we said, was to make the World Walleye Championship. You know, to accomplish something without the use of live bait was a major goal of ours, and we accomplished that goal. It's just really been a pinnacle for us to make that championship, competing against guys that had the opportunity to use live bait, and we did it without ever using live bait. We've been able to help some people to catch some fish, to rig up some of their stuff with plastics and crankbaits, and I think that's probably the most rewarding thing. Look at that.
What a way to end the day. Wow. Nice job, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What
Wow.
a great day on Devil's Lake. A great way to recap your guys' first season and reflect on your first season as fishing the entire circuit, artificial baits only.
Yeah, it's been awesome. No live bait. We got
Right
that
there,
giant
proves it.
right there.
Coming up next week, Destination, Hot Springs, South Dakota, and the world's largest mammoth dig, and Destination, North Dakota, where youngsters are the stars during a unique fishing event.